Alright, you guys, what it is, I am back again with another video, and today, you saw it, title and the thumbnail, is Meliodas a planet buster? Now, I understand that a lot of people are going to be like, wait, didn't you make a video about this already, talking about how the Sen should be more like Continental, and even in my earlier video, Naruto versus Meliodas, I said that Meliodas, it isn't really likely to be planetary, but then I actually kind of look back into it and understand that I might have been wrong about that, and I actually had to go back and look at certain contexts, certain things that honestly just didn't make any sense for why he shouldn't be. For all you that want to sit there, I'm sure that you are upset about it, but you gotta understand that this is part of the scaling community. This is what happens with it, such as Naruto being one of the biggest examples. Naruto verse is constantly changing with how they view certain things, to the point that at first everyone agreed that Naruto didn't really reach light speed until Madara's Light Fang, and then you find out in the day books and everything else that other characters have reached light speed before. So just bear with me, you guys. Just allow me to kind of show my evidence anyway, and then you can decide how you guys want to take it. So with that, like I said, just bear with me. So what I'm gonna start with first is, of course, the Demon King himself. I mean, who else would I start with? The whole thing about the Demon King and why I think Meliodas could be planetary is just based off a few statements and context behind characters like the Demon King. Now, the reason why this is important is because the Demon King is seen as one of the two gods, so of course being the Demon King and Supreme Deity. And the reason why this is so important is because the Supreme Deity himself, or not the Supreme Deity, sorry, the Demon King himself resides in purgatory for the sole purpose of his power is too great for the other world to handle. And the reason why we know that that's true, because later when Meliodas is escaping purgatory actually damage him, Meliodas blatantly says, like, yeah, I will obtain power, and with this power awakening, I will not be able to stay in the world for more than 24 hours. So it's kind of like they understand completely. And even the Demon King doesn't really deny it. Like, yeah. In fact, he's actually quite terrified, saying he's going to ruin. So he does acknowledge Meliodas' power as being true. Even later, we see when he possesses Zeldris' body, you can argue that it's weaker than the Demon King Meliodas, but it's actually really about the same, possibly a teensy, slimy, tiny slither of him being weaker. He still stands there and talks to Meliodas, and he blatantly says word for word, like, yeah, he should have power that is comparable to me. He should be more or less on par with me. And this is a Meliodas, by the way, who is in base form. This is a awakened Meliodas in base form. You know what I'm saying? He's literally sitting there as he's talking to the Demon King. He's like, yeah. Or the Demon King actually is in a monologue saying, like, yeah, you're a fool for holding back. You know what I'm saying? So this just kind of go to show you that an awakened Meliodas with his in base form, just by existing, is already his power is already too great just to exist in a mortal plane for more than 24 hours. And like I said, this is just a base Meliodas who, by the way, like I said, in his fight against the Demon King in the first place, he was constantly holding back throughout the entirety of the fight. And I personally think that is something that a lot of people actually tend to forget, that never at any point in that fight did Meliodas actually go full power. Like, not once. So this is the Meliodas and the Demon King that are in their base form, their weakest forms, and are still have enough power to destroy the world, at least by existing. And then you also have, when we later see the Demon King reach another form where he kind of gets his buff Chad form, Meliodas powers up a little bit more just so he doesn't get one-shotted. Well, not, but they're still relatives, still destroying the world. And on top of which, whether or not he goes even beyond that, gets a new form where it's actually would be comparable to his original or greater, as stated by Meliodas. This is when he's able to activate the rule and all the other stuff. And then he gets another form on top of that. And each form is stated to constantly go up in power. So, but he gets another form, like I said, where he uses Britannia itself, like the very land of Britannia itself, as a vessel for him to use to actually maintain his power and try and essentially rebirth himself, so that way he, kind of back in his prime type situation. Another example that I have to give, like I said, is even Bond himself states, like he literally says it verbatim, that Meliodas' power is far too great for the world to handle. It is upsetting the balance. His power is too great. He does not need to exist in this world. And because of that, the world is constantly trying to reject him. But because it basically can't just push Meliodas out, it is destroying itself trying to get rid of Meliodas. And this is just a Meliodas, like I said, that's just doing this by existing. When we later see, even then, Meliodas still has the demon marking, and it can go all the way up to even his assault mode that we've seen earlier in the manga. Like I said, when he's fighting against Demon King in that form, we see him briefly even in the assault mode, and that is the same form that he actually used when he uses the full counter repeatedly to even get rid of it, which we do know multiplies his base power a pretty good margin, to the point, like I said, that he wasn't able to break out of Melascula's prep time, Cocoon of Darkness. He just instantly just goes assault mode and just breaks out of it like it's nothing. And like I said, this is still why Meliodas is holding back, because we know for a fact that, as we've seen him use when he broke the curse, he has another form even after that that would enhance his power even more. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, the evidence just really points to the fact of Meliodas, just by existing, the world is constantly trying to reject him. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like literally just by existing, his overall power is just too great for the world to handle. Now, like I said, whether or not you want to use that as a planetary, like he can destroy a planet, whether or not you want to use this argument, I personally think that, you know what I'm saying, it can be debated, but the evidence just kind of points to really being more on lines of Meliodas being a planetary. And if you don't want to say that, I mean, Zeldris even still says, even someone like the Demon King was able to destroy the world just by existing, and Meliodas himself in that form far surpasses, like it's even greater than the Demon King. So Meliodas, bare minimum, like regardless, is still stronger and has more power. But even a regular Demon King, you know what I'm saying, the Demon King that we seen at the very beginning of the story and everything else, is seen as weaker than Meliodas, but still has enough power, as stated, to be rejected by the world and will literally destroy the world if he doesn't go away. Now, the reason why this is so important, because this could mean like the actual scaling for all of the Sin's characters could actually go up tremendously, because at first, like I said, I put pretty much most of the Sins, the higher tiers, being in that bare minimum, like just lowballing everyone being Continental plus of power, just based off of the Demon King stuff. But if that's the case, then literally the high tiers would be more like multi-continental, while even some of the weaker Sins, or actually most notably in this case, the actual weakest Sin period, being Deanne, even someone like Deanne would really be reaching those large countries to possibly even Continental plus levels of force, just because, granted, she didn't really do much in terms of damaging the Demon King, but she has shown enough that, like I said, she's, you know what I'm saying, still able to at least push him back and push him on the platform. So like I said, she would still be the weakest, more like large country to Continental, but it's still just the fact that she would able to do it. And that, of course, would also mean that Arthur, which I stated in my Arthur Power Scaling video, which I think got taken down by now, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, that would also mean Arthur, of course, at this moment in the story, who has the power of chaos, would, of course, his power would be even greater, which would make sense considering it would, I mean, the power of chaos, or the entity chaos, stated born amongst the star and had enough force, or really, and was the one that created the world itself. Sorry, I kind of messed it up a little. And the Supreme Deity and Demon King would have to be at least somewhat relative to that person to even seal them in the first place. So it could be argued that, yes, they're really more in that planetary levels of force. Now, one argument that I've already seen a lot of people tend to use to go against any form of power scaling for the Seven Deadly Sins in the first place in the arc, such as people saying, like I said, the King Bartra, most notably, being the one who said that everything that's going on is pertaining to Britannia, you know what I'm saying, in the north, east, south, and west, that the land is destroyed, and he specifically said that the land of Britannia seemed like it's destroyed. But the problem with that is, King Bartra is the king of Leonis, and at best, he will only have knowledge pertaining to Britannia itself. Okay? I get tired of seeing that argument because it gets used way too much, like I said, such as when Zeldris said it, like, oh, it had nothing to destroy Britannia. That's only because they have a limited knowledge on the world, especially King Bartra, considering he only says that it's affecting Britannia, even though we do know Britannia is not the only world out there. Literally, Nanashi came from a eastern country. He's even stated himself, like, yeah, I actually drifted here and came here from another land for the sole purpose of fighting in the fighting festival that Gloxinia and Droll were attending because they were offering one wish. So we don't know what it was. We don't even know what the hell happened to him. But the point is, using that argument, trying to say that these characters can't be planetary or beyond country level because of that, because of what Bartra said, is completely retarded, considering he does not have knowledge about the entire world in itself. Alright, you guys, I'm going to end the video right here. This is, to me, I just thought it was a really interesting discussion to kind of bring to everyone's attention. Just because after going through it and kind of rereading, I kind of realized, like, they mention the world a lot more than they do Britannia itself. So I just thought it was just something interesting that everyone might be curious to know about. Just maybe some people else might have had a theory just like it. It was just a fun little discussion. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, I will be talking about other characters in the future. I'm actually thinking about doing a video talking about the new Herald Thor and where he ranks amongst some of the stronger forms of Thor. So be on the lookout for videos like that. And until next time, you guys, I will see you. Peace.